You think you are constantly tired because you need more sleep, so you stay in bed for 8 hours hoping to magically cure your brain fog. The painful truth is that your uncalibrated sleep cycles are fragmenting your rest and literally destroying your neurochemistry from the inside out. In this clinical protocol, I will show you exactly how to hack your deep sleep and wake up with absolute elite focus in only 5 hours. The lie you have been sold is costing you your potential. We are taught from a young age that 8 hours of sleep is the golden rule. It is repeated by doctors, teachers, and parents. But look around. Everyone is sleeping 8 hours, yet everyone is chronically exhausted. They drag themselves out of bed. They chug terrible coffee. They spend the first 3 hours of their day fighting through a thick wall of brain fog. They believe they are just not morning people. That is a massive biological misunderstanding. The problem is not how long you sleep. The problem is how you sleep. You are treating sleep like a parking garage. You just lead your body there for a set amount of hours and expect it to be fully repaired when you pick it up. But sleep is not a passive state. It is an active, aggressive, highly calibrated biological process. When you go to bed stressed, stimulated, and full of digital noise, your brain never actually powers down. It stays in a state of hypervigilance. Basics, you might be unconscious for 8 hours, but your neurons are still firing in panic mode. Your rest is deeply fragmented. The 8-hour rule is an industrial era invention. It was created to divide the 24-hour day into 3 neat blocks: 8 hours of labor, 8 hours of recreation, 8 hours of sleep. It has absolutely zero basis in human evolutionary biology. For thousands of years, humans slept in biphasic patterns, aligned perfectly with the rising and setting of the sun and dictated by core body temperature. You do not need more hours in bed. You need biological precision. To master your energy, you must first understand the architecture of human recovery. Sleep does not happen in a straight, flat line. It happens in 90-minute waves. A 2024 clinical analysis on circadian biology confirms that human sleep cycles follow a precise, non-negotiable 90-minute rhythm. You do not just close your eyes and wake up. You travel through distinct phases. You drop from light sleep into stage 2. Then you plunge into slow wave sleep, also known as deep sleep. Finally, you rise back up into rapid eye movement or REM sleep. Then the cycle repeats. Each phase has a completely different neurological purpose. Let us break down deep sleep first. Deep sleep is physical recovery. This is the state of biological hibernation. When you enter slow wave sleep, your brain waves slow down to delta frequencies. Your blood pressure drops. Your breathing becomes shallow and rhythmic. This is when your pituitary gland releases human growth hormone. It repairs damaged muscle tissue. It strengthens your bone density. It rebuilds your immune system. If you are an athlete or if you lift weights, your physical gains do not happen in the gym. They happen in deep sleep. But more importantly, deep sleep is when your brain cleans itself. This is where your brain fog actually comes from. Every second you are awake, your brain produces metabolic waste. Thinking, focusing, and processing information creates toxic byproducts. One of these byproducts is a protein called amyloid beta. During the day, this waste accumulates in your brain like exhaust from a car engine. When you enter deep sleep, a hidden biological mechanism called the glymphatic system activates. Your brain cells actually shrink by up to 60%. This allows cerebrospinal fluid to rush in and literally wash the toxic waste out of your neural networks. If you do not get enough deep sleep, this metabolic trash stays in your brain. You wake up feeling heavy. You feel slow. That is brain fog. It is not a lack of motivation. It is physical neurotoxicity. Physical recovery is only half the equation. You also need mental reconstruction. After deep sleep, your brain travels up into REM sleep. REM is mental recovery. During REM, your brain waves speed up. They look almost identical to a waking brain, but your body is completely paralyzed. This is when your brain consolidates memory. It takes the chaotic, random information you learned during the day and organizes it into neat, structured files. It connects concepts. It solves complex problems. Have you ever gone to sleep stuck on a problem and woken up with the exact answer? That was REM sleep doing the work. Furthermore, REM sleep resets your emotional baseline. It calibrates your amygdala. If you lack REM sleep, you become emotionally reactive. You lose your temper. You lose your discipline. You seek out cheap dopamine because your prefrontal cortex is compromised. This brings us to the agonizing pain of sleep inertia. If your sleep follows a 90-minute wave, what happens when you interrupt that wave? This is the critical failure point for 99% of people. You set your alarm for exactly 8 hours, but 8 hours does not divide cleanly by 90 minutes. So, your alarm violently wakes you up while you are at the absolute bottom of a slow wave sleep cycle. Your brain is paralyzed in deep hibernation and suddenly a loud noise forces it awake. This causes severe sleep inertia. You feel completely destroyed. You feel like you were hit by a truck. It takes hours to shake off the grogginess. You blame yourself for being lazy. But if you wake up at the exact end of a 90-minute cycle, you will wake up feeling superhuman. You could sleep for 4.5 hours, or 6 hours, or 7.5 hours. Because those numbers divide perfectly by 90 minutes, you will wake up at the top of the wave. Your brain is already close to consciousness. You open your eyes naturally. You feel alert immediately. You do not need more sleep. You need better math. But knowing the math is completely useless if your neurochemistry is constantly hijacked by your daily habits. This is the painful truth about your artificial environment. You think you are optimizing your life with expensive biohacks, green powders, and productivity apps, but you are actively poisoning your sleep architecture every single afternoon. Let us talk about caffeine. You drink an energy drink or a double espresso at 3000 p.m. to push through the afternoon crash. You think it gives you energy. That is a biological lie. Caffeine does not give you energy. Caffeine is a competitive antagonist for your adenosine receptors. Adenosine is a chemical that builds up in your brain every minute you are awake. It creates sleep pressure. It is the chemical signal that tells your body it is time to shut down. Caffeine has a similar molecular structure to adenosine. It slots perfectly into those receptors and blocks the signal. You are not energized. You are just numb to your own exhaustion. Caffeine has a quarter life of up to 12 hours. By the time your head hits the pillow at midnight, that chemical is still binding to your receptors. It actively prevents your brain from entering the deep, slow-wave sleep required to activate the glymphatic system. You might be unconscious, but your brain is not recovering. You are paying massive corporations to keep you weak, tired, and dependent. And caffeine is not the only toxin destroying your baseline. Then, you stare at your phone in bed. You scroll through endless short-form videos. You expose your retinas to intense blue light. Human biology evolved over millions of years to respond to the sun. When blue light hits your optic nerve, it sends a high alert signal directly to the suprachiasmatic nucleus in your brain. Your pineal gland instantly halts the production of melatonin. Your body thinks it is high noon. Your core temperature remains elevated. Cortisol floods your bloodstream. Your body is trying to initiate a sleep sequence, but your neurochemistry thinks you are hunting for survival in the middle of the day. You are not an insomniac. You are just heavily stimulated. You have completely lost the biological ability to wind down. So, how do we force the brain into deep recovery mode tonight? Elite focus requires elite behavioral consistency. We do not hope for good sleep. We do not cross our fingers and wish for rest. We engineer it. We manipulate our biology with clinical precision. The protocol starts exactly 3 hours before you plan to close your eyes. We call this the 3-2-1 protocol. 3 hours before bed, no heavy meals. Digestion is a highly metabolic process. It requires massive amounts of energy and blood flow. If you eat a huge steak or a massive bowl of carbohydrates right before bed, your core body temperature rises. For your brain to enter deep sleep, your core temperature must drop by at least 1 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit. If your stomach is actively digesting a heavy meal, that temperature drop is biologically impossible. Your deep sleep is ruined. Stop eating 3 hours prior. Let your body cool down. The mental shutdown is just as critical as the physical shutdown. 2 hours before bed, no work, no stress, no checking emails. You must close the cognitive loops. The human brain hates open loops. If you leave a task unfinished, your subconscious will actively try to solve it while you sleep. This destroys your REM architecture. You must write down your tasks for the next day on a piece of physical paper. Empty your brain. Transfer the chaotic data from your prefrontal cortex onto a physical medium. Tell your biology that the workday is officially over. 1 hour before bed, no screens. Zero, no exceptions. You must cut the artificial dopamine supply. Replace the toxic stimulation of scrolling with calm, analog activities. Read a physical book. Stretch your body. Do 10 minutes of deep nasal breathing to shift your nervous system from sympathetic fight or flight into parasympathetic rest and digest. Action. You must let your nervous system cool down. Your physical environment must become a recovery chamber. Your bedroom must be optimized. It must be cold, ideally around 18 degrees Celsius or 65 degrees Fahrenheit. As we established, a cold environment is the biological trigger for deep hibernation. It must be pitch black. Use blackout curtains. Tape over the tiny LED lights on your electronics. A dark environment signals the pineal gland to flood your brain with raw, pure melatonin. And finally, you calculate your wake-up time using the 90-minute rule. If you need to wake up at 6:30 a.m., you count backward in 90-minute blocks. You go to sleep at 10:30 p.m. for exactly 7.5 hours. Or you go to sleep at midnight for exactly 6 hours. You align your alarm with your biology. The morning reset is where elite champions are built. When the alarm goes off at the exact end of your cycle, you execute the final and most important step. You do not hit snooze. Pressing the snooze button is a violation of your biological momentum. When you hit snooze and drift back to sleep, you are starting a brand new 90-minute cycle that you will interrupt just 10 minutes later. This guarantees severe sleep inertia for the rest of the day. You must get out of bed immediately. Within the first 10 minutes of waking, you must expose your naked eyes to direct outdoor sunlight. Sunlight hitting your optic nerve is the single most powerful biological signal in human anatomy. It instantly halts any lingering melatonin production. It spikes your cortisol in a healthy, natural way. This is called the cortisol awakening response. It provides an immediate surge of alertness. More importantly, it sets a biological timer in your brain. Exactly 14 to 16 hours after that sunlight exposure, your brain will naturally begin producing melatonin again. Getting morning sunlight is the ultimate hack for falling asleep faster that night. You must shot the system into high gear. This sunlight exposure is followed by immediate movement or cold water exposure. You do a set of push-ups, you splash freezing water on your face. You force your cardiovascular system to pump oxygen-rich blood into your prefrontal cortex. You clear the morning fatigue in seconds. You are no longer a victim to your alarm clock. You are the architect of your own neurochemistry. Sleep is not a weakness. Sleep is not a luxury for the lazy. Sleep is the ultimate performance tool used by the top 0.1% of human beings. Most people will watch this clinical breakdown and change absolutely nothing. They will go back to scrolling until 2008 a.m. They will drink another massive energy drink tomorrow afternoon. They will continue to operate at 20% capacity, wondering why they can never focus, why they're always anxious, and why their goals always feel out of reach. But not you. While average people chase cheap caffeine to fix their broken, fragmented sleep, you master recovery at the source. While others brag about the hustle, grinding on 3 hours of sleep and destroying their brains, you brag about absolute clarity. You understand that real power comes from a fully charged biological battery. That is not rest, that is leverage. And leverage is the quiet, invisible superpower that separates the exhausted masses from the absolute elite. Optimize your biology. Subscribe to the channel. I will see you in the next protocol.